Indigenous populations have a great respect for the land as it relates to all aspects of being. This deep respect has been an integral part of Indigenous culture and stems back to time immemorial. In order to maintain the land, the Indigenous peoples living on it did not exploit it for resources. Rather, they took only what they needed after providing an offering of tobacco to the animal or spirit world as a way of requesting their assistance. Indigenous peoples have principles and practices governing this exchange of a non-human life for human beings to continue to live. This is called the honorable harvest. Never take the first, never take the last, take only what you need, take only what is given, never take more than half, leave some for others, and harvest in a way that minimizes harm. These principles ensure the continuation of life and of individual species because these principles have been integrated into Indigenous peoples' worldviews and the way that they choose to live. This act of choosing to harvest in a way that minimizes harm coincides with the Haudenosaunee's seventh generation principle, which goes as follows. In our every deliberation, we must consider the impact of our decisions on the next 7 generations. Looking at proposed actions and imagining what the impact will be on the environment has always been an important aspect of Indigenous people's lives. If a certain action will cause detrimental harm to the environment and will negatively impact the quality of life for those who live 140 years in the future from that moment, the action shall not be undergone. Taking care of the earth so that it may nurture your family 7 generations in the future the way it did for you. This concept is heavily embedded in Indigenous worldviews and aims to secure a sustainable world for all. However, this worldview soon became the minority, and the concepts of the honorable harvest and the 7th generation principle were drowned out and dismissed by forces of insatiable greed, human development, and economic gain brought about by the European colonists that created the nation we know today as Canada. Generations have passed where human beings only cared about their own personal gain and growth, rather than caring about the well-being and the sustainability of the earth that would care for their children, their children's children, and so on. We as a species have destroyed the earth in the name of human development, and we have tried to maintain the course of infinite growth on a finite planet with finite resources. Some of the major attacks on the earth have been the pipelines installed that leak hundreds of thousands of liters of oil into our bodies of water, the clearing of the forests to create new communities with no regard for what will happen to the creatures that now have no home, and the continuous burning of fossil fuels that are contributing to the global climate change crisis that has the potential to be irreversible if we continue on our current path. The policies enacted and the bills that are passed determine the path Canada goes down. They determine if we as a people choose the path of destruction for economic gain or the path of sustainability. The province of Ontario, located on the lands of the Anishinaabe Nation and the Haudenosaunee, chose the path of destruction for economic gain in July 2020. The Ford government passed Bill 197, titled COVID-19 Economic Recovery Act 2020. The bill was drafted as a solution to Ontario's suffering economy as COVID-19 halted all major projects, closed non-essential businesses, and forced many to shut down. This bill aims to fast-track major developments by streamlining all environmental assessments. Environmental impact assessments is the process of identifying, predicting, evaluating, and mitigating the biophysical, social, and other relevant effects of development proposals prior to major decisions being taken and commitments made. By streamlining these assessments, there is a heightened chance of overlooking major environmental impacts that have the potential to cause devastating effects on Ontario's ecosystems and the surrounding environments. If little to no assessment of these proposed projects occurs, we run the risk of destroying our environment beyond repair and worsening the climate change crisis. According to the United Nations, 2019 was the second warmest year on record, and the end of the warmest decade ever recorded. Greenhouse gases have been rising to new levels throughout the years, and our emissions will rise to even higher rates once the COVID-19 travel bans are no longer needed and economies return to normal. In order to aid the economy of Ontario, the Ford government chose to sacrifice a healthy, sustainable environment. This does not have to be the case for Ontario and other provinces and countries seeking to recover economically from the coronavirus pandemic or anything else that has hindered economic growth. Governments do not have to pollute, destroy, or degrade the environment in order to further their development when they can protect it and achieve the same goal. In 2010, the Bolivian government came out with the Law of the Rights of Mother Earth. Mother Earth is a living, dynamic system made up of the undivided community of all living beings who are interconnected, interdependent, and complementary, sharing a common destiny. This draws on Indigenous concepts that view nature as a sacred home on which we intimately depend. Bolivia gave their environments legal rights, specifically the rights to life, regeneration, biodiversity, water, clean air, and restoration. Putting this law into practice looks like using renewable energy sources rather than non-renewable energy sources, regulating and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and developing policies surrounding organic agriculture. Another country striving to preserve their ecosystems is Ecuador. Ecuador is the first country to rewrite its constitution to recognize the rights of nature. Rather than treating nature as property under the law, Ecuador's constitution acknowledges that all of nature's life forms have the right to exist, persist, maintain, and regenerate its vital cycles, and that humans have the legal authority to enforce the rights of nature. New Zealand granting legal personhood to the Wanganui River is another example of protecting the environment without inhibiting human development. By making the river a person in the eyes of the law, it ensures long-term protection and restoration. Several countries have taken progressive steps in the realm of sustainable development by enacting laws aimed to protect the resources that human life depends on. The path humans have been on for centuries is not one that we need to continue on, and the fairly new concept of sustainable development truly is not that far out of reach. If we take after the countries that are working towards a sustainable environment, the world might be able to sustain those who are alive 7 generations from now.